This is Knights of the Nerd Republic, episode 27, and this week we're joined by Steele Saunders from the Steele Wars Star Wars podcast. The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Hello there and welcome back to Knights of the Nerd Republic. I am your host, Jared the Dark Jedi Bachman Stubbs. And on the show today, we have Spence the Mando Simpson.
Good afternoon, everybody. We have a very exciting, thought-provoking episode ahead for you, so strap in and get ready.
Yes, indeed we do. We have the Lore Keeper, Connor Chiquiti.
Hello there, everyone.
And this week, we are honored with a most illustrious guest. It is the one and only Steele Saunders.
Do you know what? I'm not the one and only Steele Saunders.
What?
What?
How unbelievable is that?
Jared, have you been messaging a fan account this whole time?
This whole time, I've been...
Thanks for having us, by the way. But there is a soccer player, or for the Europeans, full respect, football player, in England who is sometimes in the news for his rough brand of play.
Really?
And his name is Steele Saunders, which is when people say to me, oh, no one else would have my name. I'm like, dude, there's two of me.
There's two. Oh, that's
so
hilarious.
Shut your mouth, Mike Smith.
That's awesome. That it's such like an excellent name. Like I remember hearing it. Like the first time I had ever heard you was one of your appearances on the Weekly Planet. And they were like, Steele Saunders. I was like, that's the name lottery. That's the name lottery right there. That is cool as shit. That is 80s action hero as hell.
Yeah, it's my great grandfather's name. So
really?
I'm not sure how he was rocking with it. 100 years ago or how long ago that was. But it's very, I always liked it sort of like Melrose Place or Beverly Hills 90210.
I love that.
Which might be out of your demographic.
It is something we are culturally aware of. I don't know if any of us ever were able to.
Saw it.
Yeah, but we're culturally aware of it at the very least.
Culturally aware.
We have an excellent topic episode pitched by Connor to me about a week or two ago. Connor, you want to take the reins on the explanation on that?
Sure. So the topic is basically something I thought of when I was drafting up an article on the same thing, and I just thought, ooh, maybe we could do this as a topic episode. And the topic is, what makes a Star Wars story authentic? And the reason that came about is because for anyone listening and for those that know me, I talk a lot about Jedi Fallen Order unhealthily.
Maybe a little.
In some of the behind the scenes content, some of the game designers and level designers kept using the word authentic when they were describing like making a planet like Bogano or whatever, or another planet, and just sort of making it feel quote unquote authentic to Star Wars. So that's where that sort of thought came through, and then I thought to myself, oh, maybe we should do this as a topic episode, and here we are.
Yes, and I absolutely love the idea. It was one of those like, how didn't I think of this kind of moments? Where like, this
I don't
is
know
ingenious.
how I thought of it either.
But yeah, so we're gonna hop right in. Steele, as our guest, I'm going to give you the floor on your first one.
Well, I like that you think the idea is so good that you're shocked you didn't think of it. Like, I'm the guy that does the good ideas around here.
Yes, of course.
He also has the worst ideas, so it balances out.
Yeah. I'm the one who comes up with like the magnificent, horrible ideas that somehow work out in the wash. But
So how do you want me to, like, about what makes a Star Wars story authentic?
yeah, like what's
Yeah,
like
like
authentically
sort of-
Star Wars for you? Yeah.
Yeah, and like what are examples? Like what stories exemplify that authenticity?
I have to say, because there's science fiction, and like in the 90s, before like the Phantom Menace and all that cranked back up, you were sort of in this thing of like, you'd seen Star Wars and Empire and Jedi so many times that you were then searching, the video store for like sort of like-minded things that just were in space. So, anything in the black hole, Star Trek, whatever, you needed something. Stargate, that was a big one, and all that sort of stuff. And the thing that separated Star Wars from all those things is the Force.
Yeah.
I feel like.
I think you're 1,000% right on that.
And quite often when they tried to have something that was like their version of the Force, it comes off pretty hokey and bitey. I don't know if it's just how they did it or just in general. And bringing it back to now with The Mandalorian, going into it, because they were so vague about what it was about. They obviously, buried the lead.
Yeah.
Oh,
with,
yeah.
With Baby Yoda, or Yoju, if you will. And when I was watching the first episode, like I was really enjoying it, but I was sort of enjoying it like a really good episode of Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, it was
there's
like,
truth to
this
that,
is
yeah.
great.
But it's not
This is
quite.
great science fiction.
Yeah.
But there's there's like Star Wars little, the Mandalorian obviously looks like Boba Fett. But it was when in that final scene where they revealed Baby Yoda, Yoju, if you will, that's when it like a spark went off in my brain of like, oh, this is Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like that. It had all the other parts of Star Wars, like all the different, I sort of call it the Star Wars taco, where you take all these good things from all these different genres.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the inclusion of like a Force user in a brand new way. Like we'd never had that sort of toddler Force user. And then you've got the sort of the remix on that it's a 50-year toddler.
Yeah.
Who's a Force user. So for me, it's the Force that has that, and then to sort of like be the person listening that wants to sort of be the devil's advocate. There's Solo is pretty forceless.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I sort of like, for me, like it just doesn't. It feels Star Wars adjacent without the Force,
Yeah,
even though that it's Han Solo.
and I think that's weird because I'm on record as saying many, many, many times that, like, my bread and butter for Star Wars is born of the Force and of the Jedi and of the Sith and all of that stuff. And, Rogue One and Solo were one of those like, oh, I'm definitely going to see these. Duh. But, like, I don't know how incredibly invested I'm going to be in this, the stuff like Star Wars Bounty Hunter or, Shadow of the Empire. Or oh my God, Levi's going to kill me. The Dash Rendar one.
That's Shadows of the
Oh,
Empire.
thank
Come
God.
on.
Yeah, sure,
Okay.
yeah, Shadows of the Empire.
Respect the shoulder pad, buddy. Respect the
Oh, Levi's gonna be upset he missed this one. But like those stories are never like super my speed because you didn't have that Jedi Sith conflict at the center of it. And I walked out of Solo like so happy, and it shocked the shit out of me because I was expecting to
Yeah.
not be super in love with that story. And I was like weirdly super into it. Now, granted, I spent the entire night before reading all the spoilers, which is the first time I've ever done that for a Star Wars movie intentionally. Because with how troubled the production was, I was
the
expecting.
night before.
Yeah. I was like, I was at the point where I was like, I don't know exactly what I'm getting into. And part of me, because of how publicly terrible the production was, I was like, I'm going and expecting Suicide Squad. If I know what I'm getting beforehand, maybe I'm not going to be terrified. So like I knew about Maul and everything going in, but still had my socks knocked off. And I was like, I'm super into this, and it's kind of weirdly an outlier for me.
Wait. This is I'm dying on this hill. You should have just read like the first half the script or the review.
Why
You
is
didn't have
that?
to read to the end.
Well, no, like I sought out spoilers, like specifically, like I just want to know the story so I know what I'm getting going in. Because
The last minute.
yeah, I mean, it was like a day or two before, like it was like right on top of the release, and I went in,
I
locked
wish I
and loaded
didn't
and
get
ready.
spoiled for that reveal. Oh man.
But I don't know, it was fun knowing who it was and like waiting for that moment. Because then there are clues throughout the movie that it is Maul, like with like the Mandalorian stuff, and like at first I didn't realize that, like Dryden Voss just kind of looked like that. Like I thought it was like a mark of like fealty to Maul that his face kind of had the zigzaggies on it. So I was like, oh, I see where they're going with this, and it's kind of like a slow burn to the reveal. But yeah, I'm not saying I'm smart, Steele. At no point did I ever claim to be intelligent, and I know that reading the spoilers that close to the movie was just stupid.
I'm questioning your intelligence.
You should be.
Because
You'd
we're
be
in
smart
this.
too.
One reason is because we're in this Discord, and where's your one? It says that you've given yourselves all these high and mighty. I'm because this is what I clicked on my profile, and I'm down as student. And I'm like, okay. So then I click on Jared's profile, professor. This is why I wanted to talk to you on Twitter, because on there we're just all
Right.
we'd all just marked down as opinionated. But I see where
Oh, marked down as opinionated. I love that.
yeah, it's not your intelligence I'm doubting because of that, but it's your patience.
See,
Your
normally
patience.
I'm great about that kind of thing. Like the week before the Rise of Skywalker, I deleted Twitter. Like normally I am very good about avoiding spoilers and buckling down. If it weren't for like what we cover on these shows, like I probably wouldn't watch too many trailers for like comic book movies and Star Wars stuff. Other movies that aren't related to that beat, I avoid trailers at all cost. But with Solo, I was like, I didn't know what to expect. I was expecting like a Suicide Squad situation where it would just be incoherent. So I was like,
Disappointing.
yeah. So I was like, if I know what I'm getting myself into ahead of time, I will be fine. And I was still really happy with it. I'm sure I would have been more happy if I didn't do that dumb thing I did. But
I fear that stuff, and very luckily I didn't have to with that one. And this is a sweet, not a name drop, but an event drop. But I went to the Solo premiere.
I remember that. Yeah.
In LA, and the wave of like chatter in the room when Darth Maul was revealed was you couldn't have you got all your phones sealed and stuff, but I would have loved to have had an audio recording of the world premiere shock to Darth Maul being in that film. It was really funny to watch like a stir go throughout the room.
I can only imagine.
at the after party, I saw Sam Witwer, and he just was ear to ear grinning. That,
Oh man.
his secret was out. He was beaming.
This is holy shit. I just realized how long ago it was when I met Sam Witwer at Steel City.
That was ages.
It was ages ago. Eons. No, he's a sweetheart. I love Sam Witwer. He is so funny and just fun to listen to him talk. So that doesn't surprise me that he was just shit-eating grin the entire after party. Kenobi.
It wasn't even a shit-eating grin. It was a Christmas morning 7-year-old grin.
That's so wholesome and I love it.
They're the best ones.
They truly are.
Like sometimes I've got my little boy Harrison. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's almost 2, and sometimes I see him smile, and I'm just like, that is like your face. Your skull wants to jump out of your mouth. It's just such just like his body's like, sometimes I say to my wife, Jackie, that it feels like we're just going to get covered in his body parts when he explodes. Like he's just so...
You're gonna have to...
Fuck!
Yeah. Gonna have to wipe him off the walls.
Yeah, and that's what
That level
Star
of
Wars
excitement.
is for me. I watch Star Wars to try. I want to explode as well. I want to be that little kid just grinning.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that sentiment so much. Spencer, I'm going to put you in the hot seat now.
Oh boy.
What is authentically Star Wars to you? We're probably going to go around the horn a couple times.
Well, Steele reminded me of something in that for me, I typically am unable to determine whether I feel something is like really authentic until it's over, you know? Like if I'm watching a Star Wars movie, usually my first thoughts after it ends are whether or not I really bought it, whether or not it really feels like Star Wars to me, you know? And the only, I'm sorry to everybody involved who disagrees. The only Star Wars movie I've ever seen where I didn't immediately go, man, that was good. I like that. That Star Wars is Episode 9. It just did not click with me. It took me like 3 watches through before I was like, okay, this is Star Wars, I suppose. It felt, even though there was the Force involved, and I agree with Steele about 85%. About the Force being integral to the genuineness, the authenticity of Star Wars. Even though Episode 9 had the Force and it was a very like the dark versus light, good versus evil, like it was all right there. Maybe more so in your face than any other Star Wars movie ever made. It's like, here we go, baby. It's all the Jedi and it's all the Sith. And
I think you just cracked the case on why I'm so conflicted on this movie.
Did I?
I think you finally put it into perspective for me. That it has all of the motifs of what I love about Star Wars, but like shits the bed at almost every other turn with it. I think you just explained to me why I have so many weird feelings about this movie. Please continue.
It's just like, even though it had all these things, like that this is what you need for Star Wars. Check, 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 check. We got it all, baby. But it still felt like a spin-off somehow. Like it felt like a fan film to me at times. Like, this is good, but it's not like Filoni good. It's good, but it's not like Lucas world building good. It felt like another cheap American knockoff. In the words of the Mandarin. But
I do have to offer that I don't think having the Force makes it blanketly great,
of course,
or anything like that.
I think it's how it's utilized.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I'll get to when Spencer's done.
Exactly. I'm basically done. But I agree with Steele 85%. The other 10% was like, I really am looking forward to The Mandalorian, because, you know, if you think about the galaxy as a whole, like only a modest percentage of it is really influenced directly by the Force. Like really only the staple characters, the Jedi Order, the Sith, whenever they're around, and like maybe the occasional kid that's force sensitive but doesn't know why. A lot of the galaxy isn't directly touched by force sensitivity, like they're not exposed to it. And so I do crave at times some stories like that. Like, give me bounty hunters. That's like a facet of Star Wars that's really, really cool, and you can really get into without it necessarily being a force story. And so there's the 15%. That's my 15% that disagrees, because a really well crafted Mandalorian kind of story, like it could have, and I totally agree with you, Steele, that like Baby Yoda made it like, okay, this is real now. Like this is
you do know the Mandalorian is a bounty hunter, yeah?
Well, yeah. And like it was at the end of the pilot episode that I was like, okay, this is for real. They're doing this. All right, I'm for it. But it would not have required a Baby Yoda at the end of that episode for me to be like, okay, this is a cool gunslinging bounty hunter story that still folds within the Star Wars universe. I think for me, the authenticity comes from the, like, not necessarily story designs, like the world designs, the costume designs, the characters, not just their outfits, but like their personalities and how they're written and stuff like that. The minute details of making a story from an idea into okay, here it is on the screen. I think there's a lot of influence there that's really important as well, but we can talk more about that after we come back around a second time.
Yeah.
So
can I offer my thoughts on that?
Of course.
Oh, by all means.
So and I first of all, my comment about about the Mandalorian is you describing like it'd be cool to have a show about bounty hunters.
Yeah.
Ta-da!
Here it is. Yeah.
It's there. But I like how you said without Yoju, it would be like it'd be a cool gunslinging show.
Yeah.
And it would be, but I think then adding Baby Yoda changes like it. That's a cool show to I love this show.
Yeah.
And how you said how everyone, there's people that aren't they don't interact with anything Force, like in their galactic lives. Don't cover them. Like I don't want to see a genetically normal like family how they live in the X-Men universe. It just
I agree with you almost entirely on that. Like it's these weird situations of Solo and the Mandalorian that have been like the only real exceptions for me, where I'm 100% there, where I'm like, give me the Force and lightsabers or nothing. And I know I just get weird about that kind of thing where I need that anchor for whatever reason, and that's what like really grips me. But I'm with you on that 100%.
For Solo, what I wish they did for two reasons was go to Maz Kanata's castle for something.
Yeah.
And then you tie
in
in the sequel trilogy to a pre-original trilogy time, and then you get like she can do. I know because Han Solo's seen a lot of weird things.
Yeah,
and that could be one of the weird things.
Yeah, there's plenty of old or original trilogy tie-ins, but there aren't very many direct links to the sequels, and that would have been a really easy one.
Yeah, I agree. I really would have loved that. Honestly, that would be a great touch.
Even if just like when they go back and they have their Sabacc rematch, so easy. Just do it at Maz's castle. Something that's that small.
Oh,
easy.
That would have been sick. Maz and young Lando.
Oh.
Childish Landino and Maz Kanata. That'd be the shit. I love that. Connor, tell us about Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah, but that's basically what I'm gonna talk about. 'Cause, like, no, I'm dead set. Like, I think maybe it's because I've been in this bubble of Fallen Order for I don't even know how many months at this point. But to me, it just kind of screams authenticity with Star Wars, and I think there's a few factors for it, one of which is just how it uses the ever central theme of hope, which I think almost every Star Wars story, big or small, has.
Yeah.
And just utilizes it in unique ways, and just how it's utilized both in the macro journey with the holocron, and like what that holocron represents for Seer and for the Jedi, and also how it's used in the micro journey of Cal Kestis, and how he holds on to it despite his journey and his struggles with his trauma and with the Force. The other thing with the Force is just how it's utilized, I think, which is a big thing for me, at least, that makes a Star Wars story pretty authentic. And like Rebels and Fallen Order really, I think my top three pieces of new Star Wars content are Rebels, Last Jedi, and Fallen Order in no particular order. And one common thread that they have, among many others, is how they utilize the Force and how it's utilized as this spiritual being that surrounds us, connects us, and is within us. And I think Fallen Order really gets at that, not only with Jarrett Paul's lessons and how they inform Cal's perspective on the Force and his journey, but just the whole arc of reconnecting with the Force. Like, you kind of had it with, like, Last Jedi kind of started it with Luke cutting himself off, at least in the canon, with Luke cutting himself off from the Force and then reconnecting to it pretty quote-unquote easily, I might add. And then Seer does the same thing, where she closes herself off from the Force, and how she describes it in Fallen Order when Cal asks her, can you still feel the Force? She says, I think, something along the lines of, instead of opening back up to it, I sort of push it down.
Yeah.
Which I think is just interesting, but I digress. That could be another thing. But just Fallen Order basically taking that whole spiritual reconnection and like healing your damaged connection to the Force and trusting in it. Like, that just screams Star Wars to me. The fact that they took the Force and all the concepts that were in Star Wars with like cutting yourself off from it, and the writers thinking, oh, okay, how about instead of fully cutting yourself off from it, it's just a damaged connection and you have to heal it. Like, I just really like that they went that route with Cal, and it just shows that
that perfectly describes my current iPhone cord setup. Like it gets a bit of power, but it's not. It's it's like on and off. So I can relate to that.
Oh, that's awesome. I kind of relate to it too with my iPhone, but just with the Force, I think I could just go on and on about it really, because like the Force is just how it's used in Fallen Order is just so well conveyed and well done. And I think other factors that one factor that isn't necessary but really helps is how organic the connections are to the larger universe, and like how just sort of organic they feel. Like how sometimes, like for instance, basically fan service.
Yeah.
Like, we all know how some directors, they use fan service for their own ends, but it's not very well conveyed, and it sort of feels tacked on. In this case with Fallen Order, like, the connections of the Ninth Sister, the Grand Inquisitor, Vader somewhat, I'm just trying to think of others that just
Well, yeah,
come to me, but like the organic.
it makes Fallen Order feel like that same lived-in galaxy, which is, it's just enough for it to feel connected, but its own story. And I think Fallen Order's biggest strength, and I think it's something that I think it's one of the things that keeps you coming back to it, Connor, and to a lesser extent me, because I have replayed it a couple times, nowhere near as many times as you have, obviously. But it's how human that story is. Like, I think it is the most. I think even more so than The Last Jedi, I think there's like a level of just humanity to that story, and seeing people coping with horrible experiences, kind of coming to terms with those experiences. That just makes that story just so whole.
Oh yeah, and just how they react to it.
Yeah,
and you see it with Cal and Seer, and then flipped with the Inquisitors.
Yeah. It's a masterclass in seeing that trauma of what the Purge did to so many, and and it makes sense to depict it in that post-traumatic way, that all of them experience it, and now introduce the thing that makes Star Wars unique to every other franchise, the Force.
Yep.
How does that interact with the rest of this story of living with tragedy? I think that's Fallen Order's strongest suit.
I think so, because like I agree, because like I remember as a kid hearing about the Force. I think I can't really remember much of what I thought about with Star Wars other than that it was cool as a kid. But like with the Force, being able to levitate stuff and telekinesis, I thought that was really cool. But like
lifting
now,
rocks.
Yeah, it's not about lifting rocks and everything. But like now, it's just sort of. I think the spiritual side of the Force is just kind of what makes it authentic to Star Wars. And like how it's utilized in that way is sort of like, to me, a big factor in the authenticity of it, and that's why like Rebels, Last Jedi, and Fallen Order are just like up there for me. In addition to just being great stories with fantastic characters.
I'm with you on that one,
Connor. I don't get to talk to too many people that like. You hold the Jedi Fallen Order in such high regard. Like,
you have to just follow my Twitter.
I will do that. But I'm interested because I'm not a gamer at all, and I do watch the movies. People sort of edit together all the cutscenes or whatever and put it on YouTube, so you can sort of just watch a sort of bizarre Star Wars cartoon. So. And this game is like one of your favorite things in Star Wars, yeah?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay. What balance between, like, you love the story, like, with the gameplay, like, how does, like, does actually playing the game, you love doing that as well, or just watching the story? Like, how does it balance out?
I just love both. The best way I can describe Fallen Order for me is it's a solid Star Wars game with a incredibly dope and authentic Star Wars story.
Gotcha. So you like the story more than the gameplay in this instance?
In this instance, yeah. Like,
not that I'm dissing the gameplay, but I'm just
like the
interested.
Gameplay. Ooh, how do I put this? It combines, like, okay, so the gameplay. I remember the one tagline that Respawn had all the time was this story's about becoming a Jedi, and like the first thing I went to is like, oh, the whole badass thing, like using the Force, using a saber. But like the thing I like about Fallen Order is that like it combines the sort of badass aspects of being a Jedi with the spiritual, almost Last Jedi aspects of being a Jedi, and just sort of deepens them, like that whole trusting in the Force, and just realizing there's a line in the game that that pretty much sums up Jedi philosophy, and Cal says, all I do know is having a lightsaber isn't what makes you a Jedi. Even though basically, like, you destroy enemies left and right with that lightsaber, it's still, like, you could argue there's that disconnect, but, like, in any case, with the story, it's the Jedi philosophy in it is well conveyed, but just the gameplay is really fun. Frustrating, but fun.
When you say that line, having a lightsaber does not make you a Jedi, it reminds me of the dudes that go to the wrestling wearing title belts. Like they have like the full-size replica belts and they wear it to they sit in the audience with their title belt. Pretty rad.
I love that so much. I love that image in my head.
Like, so sort of your original question, Steele, of just... What was it again? I'm sorry, I might have gotten off track.
I think my original question was, how do you use the Discord?
Well, no, well, with Fallen Order, I mean. Yeah, obviously. Yeah, Discord, the Discord side of the Force is a pathway to...
Okay, sorry, I'm taking you too literally. No, I was just interested in... because you talk about your love of the story so much, so I was just like, because I sort of don't have that experience as a fan. You know, it's sort of like asking a toy collector, do you want realism or do you want articulation? Like what?
That's true. I think... Okay, because, like, it's not really the story, it's the characters, because it's a very character-driven story. Like, the story's a holocron heist, but, like, to me at least, I don't know if anyone else can agree with this or talk about it, but just, I never, like, throughout the story many times, I didn't care about the holocron that much. I was like, ooh, what's happening with these characters? The holocron just felt like an effective backdrop to...
Didn't get why they didn't use the proper name and call it a Wayfinder.
No.
That's for the Sith, my guy.
No. Absolutely, positively, no Wayfinders. No, thank you, Connor. I was expecting some Fallen Order deep dive, and I'm glad we got it.
I think the best way I can put it with the gameplay is that the cutscenes really enhance the sort of spiritual aspect, and the gameplay, to a degree, does that. But it more so emphasizes the sort of badass aspects of becoming a Jedi. So it's a sort of balance.
So, there's a new Star Wars game about to come out. This is fictional. Would you rather hear the rumor that the gameplay's great, but the story's not very good, or the story's great, but the gameplay's pretty average? What rumor would you like to...
I'd go with story. Story's great, gameplay's not that good.
I concur.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I can put
to
up
me,
with
story is all...
game.
Star Wars is all about story.
That's definitely my choice, because I just watched the YouTube movie.
And that's an easy bullet for you to bite. Yeah, you just get to bypass all of the mediocre gameplay and get to the meat of it.
Yep. And you also bypass pretty much wanting to throw your controller at the screen many times. So that's good.
Yeah, no, Connor, I'm there with you with a lot of the Fallen Order stuff. And where Connor is on brand for making a Star Wars conversation about Fallen Order, I am going to hold true to my brand and make my bit of this conversation about The Last Jedi.
Yes.
As a shocker to none. I think, and I will say this as much as I like to make fun of The Rise of Skywalker, I think the sequel trilogy, truly as a whole, is some... it feels like Star Wars so hard, for the most part.
Agreed.
Like with the exception of, like, I think The Rise of Skywalker in certain elements and execution of certain plot points kind of forgot that the story's kind of supposed to have a happy ending.
Says who?
Not Bob Iger.
Yeah. those misgivings aside, there is something very profoundly Star Wars about the ST. And then The Last Jedi in particular. And I think one of those elements is just that narrative of finding oneself that is omnipresent through the sequel trilogy, that just it really makes you just feel good. You know, I will argue that, you know, Finn could get a little bit more playtime. However, I do think he has a solid enough character arc, even though he could have used more time. You know, we see Finn become dedicated to fighting for something bigger than himself, and, you know, going from being forced into the life as a soldier and choosing to fight against that oppressive regime. We get to see Poe, you know, grow beyond being the trigger-happy flyboy, and become an actual hero and a leader. And obviously we see Rey, you know, her especially, that arc of that needing to belong somewhere. And I think there's something very poetic and beautiful about every time that she tries to force that belonging, it rejects her. But how she's able to just, it just happens naturally. That she finds this family. She has a found family in Finn and Poe and Leia and Luke and all of those people, that they all kind of, so she ends up surrounded by people who love her and whom she loves.
Oh, you must have seen a different final shot to me.
I mean, in the macro, I don't. Quentin Reviews, one of my favorite YouTubers, did a hilarious review of The Rise of Skywalker, and the segment where he's talking about her on Tatooine, he hits the nail on the head, where he's like, she's going to this planet that she's never been to, has no real attachment to. Even Luke and Leia fucking hate this planet. We are only here for fans. We are only here for people who go, that's the lawyer's homestead. We are only here for them. None of this makes sense. It would have made more sense to bury it on Octu, whatever. And it's even true about how had anybody who was betting on when I'd bring up Kylo Ren in this conversation. If you betted about the 41-minute mark, you won. Kylo Ren's arc of, you know, that the almost the inverse of Rey, of him trying to isolate himself deliberately, and, you know, finding that as much as he wanted to repress it, there is a hero inside of him that was begging to be released. And we got that for a good 5 minutes. But talking about The Rise of Skywalker aside, The Last Jedi's recognition of that middle chapter of, like, the moment you find what you're looking for, now you just need to let it kind of become a part of you. And seeing the journeys that Rey goes on, it's just that arc of finding yourself is so profoundly Star Wars. And I think for the most part, it's better portrayed in the macro in the sequel trilogy than in any other place. I think because it's a little bit more prevalent than it is in the OT and in the prequel trilogy, where by the end of Luke's story, it's about saving his father. Where with Rey, that belonging, that arc of belonging is kind of there the whole time, and it's not as subtle as it is with, like, the whole Campbellian hero's journey with Luke. But yeah, I think finding oneself is that thing that just that's Star Wars, is that journey of being able to look in the mirror and go,
self-discovery.
Yeah.
Huh.
I really think that's what it is, and that's something that that really hits home for me. You know, that, and, like, as I've said before, stories like Superior Spider-Man or The Dark Knight Returns and stuff like that, where you have a hero have to rediscover themselves, which is why I love Luke in The Last Jedi so much, where, like, you have him very not dissimilarly to Fallen Order, where Luke has to find his faith again. He has to like become back in touch with his spiritual side, and that love and compassion that makes him who he is. He has to let all that back in, and kind of like put his foot on the ground and go, no, I am this Jedi. I am this, for better or worse, legend, and I need to make it count. And, everything I've done up to this point matters, and what I need to do next matters even more. So the story of self-discovery and rediscovery is what is one of the things that make for a truly authentic Star Wars story. And that thread of discovering oneself is present in some way, shape, or form in all of Star Wars. But yeah,
I've never thought of it that way. I might have, but like it's never been. I don't know. It's just I don't think it's ever been as articulated as well as it just as you just did, Jared, before. I think because it's just so inherent to Star Wars that I never really consciously thought about it. And when you started talking about it, I was like, oh shit, that's kind of Cal's story too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, all of Star Wars. It boils down to somebody learning who they are, and there's just something profoundly beautiful about that I love.
Agreed.
And
oh yeah.
If I may chime in, I feel like I have set myself up for a horrible position of just disagreeing with Steele the whole time, which is not true. 15% again. We're back to the 15. Is that like that's not just true for the force wielding characters either? Like there are some some really principal non-force wielding characters that experience that as well. Like Mando, like even like Captain Rex, Han Solo, like they all come into their own throughout the course. That's why. Yeah,
I think that's why the Force is such a great narrative device. Is that because when you introduce that spiritual element. And the Force, and I think the thing that makes it so unique to Star Wars as a franchise is that the Force is simultaneously a religion and a superpower.
Yeah,
and there's
it's accessible to both Force sensitive and non-Force sensitive characters.
Like the nature of the Force is so. It permeates all of Star Wars. That even in a story like Solo or Rogue One, despite Chirrut being Force adjacent, for lack of a better word, there's when you watch those stories and you just keep that thread of the Force in the back of your mind, like Solo is incredible because you can just spend that whole movie going, oh, this is the this is the providence of the Force. Slowly and meticulously honing Han Solo
into the person.
Where it's like, okay, we need you to be a certain way in about 10 years.
And we're gonna start you here now.
And there's something just profoundly beautiful about it that is easy.
I don't know about that. I think you've been watching too much Lost. Which isn't actually possible because I've watched like 5 seasons in 2 months or something.
I've actually never seen Lost.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, me neither.
Lost they did a really good sort of original take on a Force-like thing where there's this special island that has sort of like a Force and sort of deities that use it. And it's very much it sets things in motion like, 30 years you go back in time and see that the island did something to someone to help them get to the island 30 years later. Where in saying that the Force was doing stuff because it needed Han Solo, that's a bit much for me. That's a bit rich. Like, I like the idea that darkness rises and light to meet it.
Yeah.
But, priming a non-Force user to have his Uber at the right place in 20 years' time, I'm not buying that one.
Well, I don't think it's I think there's something to be said for the living Force, and like it kind of like old Ben says, like it surrounds and binds and penetrates, and like it's just like Maz. Maz is another one of those somewhere in between. Like, she's not force sensitive, but she knows enough about the force to understand
She
that like
is
it has
force sensitive. We don't see her
Yeah,
actually use it, but like I think there's a deleted scene where she like collapses a wall on stormtroopers with the force.
Oh, okay, cool.
Like, yeah.
But like,
Yeah,
Dope.
but like,
that
she,
that has triggered me. That comment. I hate it when people, or J.J. Abrams, diverts from the original intent. Like, you know, Maz Kanata's sort of was this next generation Yoda that, you know, there's this deleted scene where she does use the Force. And then it's like, nah, let's just make her not for, like, let's just keep it ambiguous. I find that so frustrating.
I agree with you. I really
And
wish we could have seen Maz do some actual cool shit.
Yeah, and it would have been, I would have, like, loved it. That, you know, not, I don't want to see her, like, turn on a lightsaber or anything, but like idea that she used the Force to save everyone on Takadona is
That's kind
like
of
I thought that was sort of like a fresh take back then for a you know, someone to fill that Yoda role.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
I think that in that sense we can make as much progress with this episode talking about the instances that make Star Wars feel inauthentic on screen.
Yeah.
You know,
they kind of go hand in hand in a weird yin yang. Yeah.
Defining what it is by knowing and pointing out, like, yeah, that's what it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, like Rey alone on Tatooine just feels wrong.
Yeah, or Maz having this really ambiguous attachment to the Force. But yeah, I think. Yeah, back to, you know, the idea of the living Force having a passive influence, not necessarily like, you know, the Force is going to divinely inspire said person to, like you said, like get in the Uber at this time, you know, like that. Just, I don't think that's how it functions. But like there is it's the element of destiny in Star Wars.
Yeah, there's something to that, and I should clarify, and Steele, I do agree with you that I don't necessarily think the Force was priming the galaxy's greatest Uber driver.
Yeah, no,
as you put it, but they're just that the destiny and the Force are kind of go hand in hand, and like seeing the progression there, that, you know, just that element of the Force and how with Force sensitive characters, that arc of finding oneself and discovering oneself is so it's very easy to tell that story when you have something like the Force, that, you know,
my theory for it with having the Force in everything in some way, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
in even say in these are my levels in Rogue One, even if Chewett wasn't like faux Force sensitive or whatever, it taking place, you know, amongst all those temples and that sort of ancient Jedi planet, that would fulfill a bit of Force quotient for me, especially in a movie about finding the Death Star plans.
Force quota, I love this.
But I think as a general rule, what is covered in Star Wars, in film and in animation and television stuff, is the important things that happen in the galaxy throughout the eons. And I also think that whenever something important happens in the galaxy throughout the eons, the Force is involved in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether it's direct turning on lightsabers, or like a mysterious planet, or, do you know what I mean? I just think it should it be intertwined with the important. And of course, there are planets where people are they're just going to Space Walmart and buying their stuff and whatever, and they're just going about their business. Great, they're there. Don't want to know about them.
I wasn't necessarily referring to like the mundane, like the Lars family. Had the Skywalkers not gotten involved, like that's not the kind of story I'm talking. I mean, like, cool isn't the right term, but like, I'm a Mandalorian fan. I could stand to see like an interesting story about Mandalore, which isn't directly Force involved, But like you say,
But even then it is
Like,
because
it-
like the entire lineage of Mandalore, especially where it is now, is so heavily influenced by their war with the Jedi.
yeah, but you don't need like that lore, the lore of the Force. I think it, like Steele said, like that Force quota for a Star
Yeah.
Wars story, like just having that lore of like, okay, the Mandalorians fought the Jedi for generations. Like that's enough of a Force foundation for me to have like, okay, you can still have some interesting character development and some cool stories about Mandalorians doing Mandalorian kind of stuff. You know, having the Force implicitly involved is enough, at least for me personally, to have an aura of genuineness to the story. But you know, other kind of like,
Can I ask this? Can I
Yeah,
ask this?
yeah.
Would you have a story about Mandalorians and their society without the inclusion of the Darksaber?
that's a good point. And again, like that,
I think you could.
yeah, because I think you
No,
certainly
not that
could.
it could. You-
Yeah, I'm
I
just
wouldn't.
saying.
Yeah, I would. I don't know that I would want it because again, like the implicit inclusion of that past, like the tension between the Mandalorians and the Jedi, like the inclusion of the Darksaber into the Mandalorian like clan based culture, just takes an already pretty cool warrior civilization to a completely new level. And
And I'll also say, not just from a fan point of view, but more of a general, you know, Joe ticket buyer, Freddie Disney Plus subscriber, including as many, like including the Darksaber, I feel like makes it far more mainstream. Not that they know about the Darksaber, but it's a lightsaber. It's a new type of lightsaber. What's
Yeah.
this about? What's going on here? It looks good
yeah,
visually. I think it'd be a fun game to play where you pitch a Star Wars project that doesn't involve the Force, and then but by adding the Force, you could make it this much cooler.
yeah.
But-
It's,
I
it
got
would be a
one.
challenge. It would be probably the greatest challenge in the history of Star Wars writing to find a story that is completely uninvolved with the Force on any level, but still have it be, like we're saying, authentic enough for people to, you know, buy it, both literally and just like, oh yeah, I'll buy that.
Yeah.
You know, it would. You're right, Steele, in the sense that you would be hard pressed to find an authentic Star Wars story that does not, on some level or another, include the Force as part of the narrative.
And
Which-
I also think that, you know, and this is Solo, to make it like once you take away the Force, the writer or the producer or the director might then become obsessed with references to make up for that, to make
Yeah.
it Star Wars.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like Solo didn't have the Force in it except for Maul at the end, but it felt like it was making up for that. Like, you know, you see Luke Skywalker on a mountain, like, and it's like he's looking wistful in his Jedi robes. Hey, there is no doubt in my mind that this is Star Wars.
Right.
So yeah, you'd be very hard pressed to write a story that isn't reference based, like to come up with a new character and he exists in Star Wars and there's no Force and you're not drawing upon, you know, he's friends with Jabba the Hutt. Do you know what I mean? That'd be
Yeah.
a real hard to. It just come off as like generic but good
Yeah,
sci-fi.
just sci-fi.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That is.
Because it's space fantasy.
it is.
I'm not gonna stop thinking about this prompt for like
It's
the rest
it's like,
of the week.
I know.
How
It's
do
so
you
involved.
do it?
That's our new challenge. Is
No,
to,
but
is to
not
find a way.
how. Not how. Why?
Yeah. What? Yeah. Why would you even want to?
Why do it? Like the Mandalorian, I would have watched every episode several times. Done podcasts about it. Add some Force in. Highlight of my year.
Yeah.
There you go. I think we have time to go around the table one more time.
Yeah. I'm running out of specific things. It's just kind of turned into a, like, we just think of something and we say it.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else specific, but we
It'll be
can.
loose.
I'm sure Connor has something else to say.
Connor bowed out.
Oh, is it time for him to go?
It might be, or he disconnected accidentally. And we here on the Nerd Academy podcast stop for no man and just talk through technical difficulties because that's what we do around here.
So, yeah, Steele?
Still, you have any other authentically Star Wars things? Do like a quickie lightning round?
I don't know. You guys go first, and then I'm trying to think. It's I guess. Okay. Joy.
Okay.
There was like, remember that the Darth Vader fan film, Shards of the Past.
Yeah, the Star Wars Theory one, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And like it was amazingly done. And do you know what I mean? Like just the aesthetic of it was just incredible.
Oh, yeah. You can tell how much time and money went into that.
And there was no doubting it was based in Star Wars because, you know, there's Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Right? But it was miserable. Like everyone in it was miserable. Like every character was like there was no joy in it. And
yeah, I think those are one of those hang-ups that I think a lot of people who want a dark side protagonist story for don't realize just how heavy that kind of story is going to be on the intake.
Yeah, it's not as palatable to, like you were saying, Joe Ticket buyer. Where like if you want these dark stories, there's plenty of them in the comics, but nobody reads the comics except like the hardcore fans like us. And I think there's a reason.
A lot
for
of those concepts were sort of mirrored from the comics as well.
Yeah,
so I think you bring up a good point that like for the general public to take it in and be like, yes, that's some good Star Wars content. You know, every movie ends with some form of accomplishment or
we're gonna get him next time.
We're gonna get him next time. Yeah, there's always, but either hope is a prevalent theme, but like
not clones. Oh, I guess they get married. I don't know. Attack of the Clones is.
I think the marriage is like you have that moment of like
no, but it's faux hope because you know how it ends. Like if you were just watching it in like story based chronological.
Yeah,
like if Attack of the Clones was the 7th Star Wars film that you saw, that would be very uplifting. But knowing that in 3 years you're going to come back and watch this dude kill everyone, it's sort of just like, no buys. But the hope or there's just no levity to it. But the other thing is when I feel like, that sort of dark Darth Vader film or whatever, like a big portion of the fan base would love it. Do you know what I mean? But it's taking away
from
something
the heart.
that what another part of the fan base loves. Yeah, the heart of it. And like it was just so dark sort of thing.
Yeah.
It didn't even seem like in that universe things could be uplifted again. And it's sort of, it's far easier to depress than uplift as well.
See, I find that fascinating because at least for me, as somebody who, two favorite characters are Kylo Ren and Darth Vader. For me, there is a level of enjoyment I get from specifically here Vader-centric stories where a lot of it is that like ugly headspace that Vader is in, where it's just that constant like pushing down Anakin, like Lords of the Sith. That whole book is a great example of him just constantly like looking at himself in the third person in this really weird and disturbing way. That knowing that all of that culminates in tell your sister you were right. For me, there is like a really bittersweet joy I get from a Vader story. that like at my core, I know kind of the reverse of what you were saying, Steele, with the like Attack of the Clones is faux hope, where like I have that moment like reading a Vader story where I'm like, you're eventually gonna realize this is all bullshit.
It's like a faux despair.
Almost like it's very real despair,
Well,
you
yes.
know, but like
Yeah, but you
in
can-
that moment you just keep remembering like you're going to make it out the other side of this and come to your senses and do the right thing in the end. Which, you know,
Which can't be said for all dark side characters. But
No.
you don't invest your hope for the story in like the Darth Sidious's of the universe.
yeah. You know, and I think that's another thing that Star Wars, I think, and this is my own, I don't know if this is a hot take or not. And you guys can call me out accordingly if I sound crazy for saying this. I think Disney Star Wars has done a better job at making the villains feel more human than Star Wars ever has before. And I think that like a new thing that is authentically Star Wars are these just like really, really just people of villains. Where Maul is no longer like, hi, I look like Satan and I have a double-bladed sword. You know, like he's this kid who got indoctrinated into a murder cult and is now stuck in those ways. And in Dooku, you have this incredibly privileged prodigy who also had really weird abandonment issues and went off the fucking deep end because of it. And, you know, Anakin has
like
the whole
the-
franchise dedicated to him. And
Like I like the first part of both those sentences, but then something bad happened to him. It's sort of like and he dealt with it poorly. Like
Yeah.
I don't like it when it's sort of, but then he had a bully, and then he had it's sort of, I don't know. I sort of like it, and it's all like a matter of perspective.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Like I don't, you know, sort of like for like Dooku, you know, he had abandonment issues. It's sort of like, nah, it's just like, he's a dick.
yeah.
yeah, and then
I
that's
don't
the other
wanna-
thing is that I like is that like there's still that element of, oh, Darth Maul's a bloodthirsty monster who also got indoctrinated. Where I like Dooku's a dick who also had this really weird relationship with his family and the council.
Yeah, like
Where I like a marriage of those things where like he's still a villain, he's still evil, they're still
Yeah.
wrong.
I think it's like we're sort of just talking about it, maybe just off. Like, I think more if they think that it's a classic thing about a villain. If they think they're doing the right thing, that makes a great villain.
Yeah,
And yeah, and again,
And that was sort of like Anakin and Padme. Do you know what I mean? Like they both wanted peace in the galaxy, and then they have that conversation in the grass, and the grass conversation, and
where Anakin goes, "Hey babe, I'm a fascist, by the way, just letting you know." I'm like,
Yeah, well,
super
they're
into
both-
fascism.
they essentially on paper want the same thing,
yeah,
but Anakin's happy to make people do it.
yeah,
Yeah,
So yeah, I sort of, like say like Palpatine, and I sort of, I don't know if people are joking or they actually want this, but it's sort of like, they want a story, or they sort of fan theorize a story where something bad happened to him to make him go like that. And it's sort of like, well, it has to start somewhere, surely. It can't be.
yeah. Well, I think that's one of the things that the Plagueis novel did really well with Palpatine, is that like they were very good at towing that line, kind of like I was saying with there. It was like, oh, his home life is really screwed up, and there's all kinds of reasons. It's like the how we got here psychologically, but also he just really enjoys hurting people.
yeah.
Where there's just like there's a baseline where like there's a baseline evil that this person has cultivated in themselves, and then you introduce the X factors that they can't control, and that's how we arrive here. Where like Palpatine freaks out the first, like when he kills his family, and then just gets real cool about it afterwards. Like he has his brief moment of holy shit, I just did that, and very quickly turns into I just did that. And like it's like a switch. Is like he's like okay, this is just what I do now. I murder people with this banker.
Yeah, I think calling back to the point of like the authenticity of it.
Yeah.
It's like, to me as a kid, the authenticity of Star Wars, like, again, good versus evil. Like, I find it much more authentic overall for a Star Wars story for someone to be a bad guy because they are just evil. Like, Palpatine is just evil. And so as a bad guy, like, I could empathize with the good guys who are like, it's hard and it's an uphill battle. It's a Sisyphus situation, but it needs to be done because this person is evil. And until they're stopped, like, the whole galaxy is going to suffer because of this evil. And, like, of course you can have dynamic characters like Vader, like Kylo Ren, where, like, there are, and even like Maul. I think Maul leans more toward that I'm just evil, and I like that. Like, he's got some dynamicness to his character, but, like, in the end, it is the evil characters. It, like, the Palpatines, the
and it's sort of like not the action that happens to him; it's the reaction.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to, like, say, like, put Darth Maul in the Bespin lightsaber fight with Darth Vader, and Darth Vader chops off his arm and says, "Join me and we can rule the galaxy together." Darth Maul will probably go, "Oh yeah, okay, sweet."
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
yeah,
Like, Luke Skywalker's like, "No, I won't even." Like, even if Darth Maul was gonna join him and then try kill him later on,
yeah.
like, Luke Skywalker just
He's
can't.
like, no.
Can't even.
He'd rather die than join Vader.
Yeah,
Like,
than
and that-
risk it.
Yeah, and that's what brings the authenticity of Star Wars. And again, like, bringing back with what Steele said about joy, it's like, to me, every single time I watch these movies, the moment when I feel like the most, yes, this is Star Wars right here, are like the conclusion of Episode 6, where, like, yes, we did it. Like, the galaxy is free now. There's no longer this evil
put in
here.
like the
And
Mr.
it, like,
Sunday movies clip of Lando clapping.
Lando clapping. Yeah, that's good. And, like, say what you want about, like, the corny Ewok dances and the tribal drums on the stormtrooper helmets, but, like, it's just
Yeah.
like, yes,
Or
we did it.
Augie's Great Municipal Band.
Or yes, the great municipal band. It's those moments of triumph, of, like, joy, like, we did it, and good shall prevail. Those moments define, like, I get the feels.
Yeah, well, pardon the Hamilton reference, but it's that like, really, like, there's something cathartic about that bit in Battle of Yorktown, where, like, you just have, like, all of the principal characters scream, "We won!"
Yeah.
Where it's that moment of catharsis of, like, holy shit, we pulled this
did
off. I don't know how, but we did it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that joy and that, you know, I think there's, I find my favorite, you know, Star Wars endings to be the ones that are a little bit more melancholic. That there's that level of, that there's, like, that bittersweet joy and hope, like Revenge of the Sith, where you have that moment where, like, you know, like the final shot's baby Luke.
Yeah.
And it's that moment of, like, everything's in the gutter right now, but you all know what's coming. And everyone's gonna be okay.
Yeah, which is why I would roll the cremation of Vader into the ending sequence.
Yeah.
Like, it still counts. Like, it's that this stinks. Like, this is really sad. It's unfortunate that this character who finally has a redemption story.
Yeah. He
It's
couldn't
so-
really.
No, clapping Ewoks. That's the ending. It's awesome.
But, like, it's it's a combination of Jared's, like, I love the bittersweet, but then also, like, that, but there's real joy that comes along.
Yeah.
It's not a forlorn joy. It's like, yes, just pure Ewok clapping
Yeah.
joy, and everyone posing for a family photo
Yes.
right before the credits roll.
And
I was just while you guys talking, thinking about like the most just pure Star Wars moment that first occurred that sort of best sums what it's all about. And I think it's the final seconds of the trench run. You've got hero trying to block, trying to save the galaxy. You've got evil guy on his tail, and then you've got another guy that's decided to do the right thing. Help him out. Luke uses the Force.
Yes.
Universe is saved. That's Star Wars in 10 seconds.
You're absolutely right.
That's brilliant.
You're absolutely right.
Brilliant.
That's why we brought you on. That's the perfect place. There you go. That is 100% right. Spencer.
Hey, does that mean I can get upgraded in the Discord to something?
Funny you mention it.
We can have you as guest speaker, adjunct professor, whatever you like.
So funny you mention it. Check your Discord now, because Joel messaged into our chat that he had changed it for you.
I've been upgraded to very honored guest.
Yes. Excellent.
I wasn't sure when he changed it to. I couldn't get to it, but Joel just messaged me. He was like, make sure Steele checks his Discord thing.
This is going to be the saddest story when my wife asks how my day was. I got upgraded to very honored guest.
These just jackass kids from Pennsylvania just wasted an hour of my time and called me an honored guest.
I mean, I'm a student. Come on now.
Spencer.
I'm happy with a very honored guest. That's good.
No, you are a very honored guest. Very much so.
Yes.
Spencer.
Indeed.
Where can the lovely people find you?
You guys can find me on Instagram at SpenceMan Cosplay and on Twitter at SpenceMan49. Ka-cha.
Ka-cha?
Ka-cha.
It was almost ka-chow. Is this a Disney Pixar Cars?
I didn't want a copyright strike, so I changed it at the last syllable.
Steele, where can the lovely people find you who are probably already following you and listening to your amazing shows?
I do a podcast called Steele Wars that's available everywhere you can get podcasts, and we do sort of theme shows that appear on the feed, like go through Star Wars history and that sort of thing. We also do, and probably best known for doing interviews with Star Wars fans or people involved with Star Wars. There's some episodes with the cast of The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. There's a really good in-depth interview with Ben Mendelsohn, who played director Krennic, Steve Stanton, Sam Witwer, all that good stuff.
Oh, the Sam Witwer episode is so good. That one is so good.
And you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Steele Wars, which is STEELE Wars. And thanks for having us on the show. This is a really fun conversation.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's been an honor to have you on the show.
Absolutely.
This is some of the most fun I've had doing this, getting to work with amazing people whom I'm already a fan of.
And Connor had to duck out, but he wanted to make sure that we told you how much he appreciated getting to have you on as well. So,
yes.
I thought for sure Connor was going to say he'd like you to know he likes Jedi Fallen Order.
Yes, well, that too.
The guy's plug. We'll plug him as Conman JFO. Take one guess what the JFO stands for.
Yeah, that's his Instagram handle. And then Depa Banana on Twitter, and join the Facebook group. He admins the Alliance of Star Wars Fanatics. You guys have all heard the spiel, Star Wars and positivity, and it's a great Facebook group with like not psychotic people in it.
Yeah,
which is a marked improvement from most other Star Wars Facebook groups. You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at DarkJedi2552, and you can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and on our website, www.thenerdacademypodcast.com, where, if you're feeling generous, you can chuck in a couple credits to our Patreon and help us keep the lights on around these parts. With that, again, Steele, thank you so much. This has been a blast. Thank you to Connor for this great idea, even though you had to bow out a little early. And
it should have been yours anyway, so thank you.
Pardon? You got a little muffled at the beginning. What was that?
Said, well, the idea really should have been yours.
Oh yeah,
it should have been mine. It really should have. It was just it was a lack of foresight on my part, and Connor got the idea by osmosis. We are honored that you all have joined us, and may the Force be with you always.